Hey associates. All right, so by popular request, this video just goes through all of the foundational kind of key tools that you need to finish your reports with some good polish. I have both the desktop, which is what I strongly recommend, and you'll see why, as well as the 365 version up with kind of this little mock sort of document that I created. And so specifically, right, to finish your reports, you're going to need a title page, you'll need a table of contents, you'll need your list of figures, and then you'll have all your content. You'll need 2 visuals, you'll need captions on those visuals, a reference list, and then you'll have like glossary appendix, but there's nothing special to insert those. So those are the foundations that I'm going to go over. And then at the end, I'll go over some more advanced word features that you might try, might play with, gives it really an extra polish that you might also need, might not, just depending on your topic, which is going to be how to get differentiated page numbers. Well, I'm not requiring it. Again, it's kind of like an advanced sort of thing. You can, set it up so that all your front matter, is Roman numerals, and then your main pages are actual pages. So I'll show you how to do that, as well as how to get certain pages in landscape mode. For example, if you have a table and you don't want the whole report, of course, to be in landscape, because that is weird to read. So that's what we're going to go over. I recommend that you open up your document. Literally, this will be only really useful if you actually open your document and follow along with these steps. All right. So first you need that title page. There is not really anything that's special with making a title page. But if you're on the desktop version and you haven't made your title page yet, you can go into the Insert tab here, and there's literally a cover page option that you can just insert and embed. Cool, right? And that's just right there. You can just pick it, and then it starts as your first page. Cool. And it actually knew and replaced mine. If you are in the web version, you are not going to have this option, unfortunately. And so if you can't, get to if you can't get to a library computer to do this kind of work, you're just going to have to manually just, insert a new page, start a new page, and then just type in and do all of this yourself. Which, again, doable, absolutely. This one will give you just an automatic little cool formatted version. You see it is a little bit upset and angry. The cloud version of desktop is just not as good. And so you literally just type it in yourself, right? You can set the font to be a little bit bigger. For this, you're not going to put an abstract on the title page because you're actually writing an executive summary, which gets to be a lot longer, so I would just delete that. So that's all you got to do for your title page, right? Then you have your executive summary. In terms of does it go before or after the table of contents, I've seen it both ways. It doesn't really matter to me. If you have a professor or your boss cares a lot about it, then you would just follow their instructions. But I have personally seen them written both ways I've read about 5 different textbooks, as I have been teaching and whatnot. And they flip and flop back and forth in terms of should the abstract go first, should the table of contents go first. I personally like and think it makes sense for the executive summary or the abstract to go next. Before you really get into the content, I guess, but it really doesn't matter as long as I can find it. So I'm just going to put the abstract here. Again, nothing special. You just write it. There's no special formatting you need to do. Also, I personally would not tag it as a heading because then it will show up in your table of contents. If it's before the table of contents, then it doesn't really make sense to be in the table, I don't think. But if it's after the table of contents, maybe it does make sense. So I generally think anything before the table, it's well, I've already come across it, so why would I put it in there? And again, I've seen it recommended and in multiple different ways in different textbooks and out in the world. I've seen it both ways. Okay, so you do your abstract. Then you'll have your table of contents. In the online environment, it's actually the same both ways. So if you don't have your table yet, then just go into the References tab, Insert Table. All right. If you're online, it's same References tab, Insert Table. All right. And it will insert your table for you. List of figures, however, does not have the option. So you can see how much more options are in the References tab in the desktop version compared to the online version. So if you can't get to a library to open your document in like the desktop app, which you would do when you go to the library, you just click on editing, open in desktop app, and it will open it for you on that computer. You will have to do this manually, right? Which just basically means being like, being like, you know, figure 1, write kind of your caption out, and then, you know, kind of just going over, being like page 4 or whatever. We can see it's, you know, it's not nearly as kind of nice. It's not nearly as sort of detailed and formatted, and it kind of makes it a bummer. And yeah, you know, we just don't like it as much. To get things like the leading, honestly, is like even I would have to play around with Word for a little bit to figure that out. And so, like, just go to the library. Just make Word do it automatically is really my recommendation. So instead of having to do it manually, as such, instead, what you this is maybe how I would do it. Possibly. Yeah, I guess that's one option. All right, I got like distracted being like, ooh, right, how would I do that? I do kind of like that. I guess that's if I was like approaching this and I had to do it manually, I'd probably do something like that. Anyway, so I'm going to get rid of the borders. This is how you can get different lines and borders as well. So if you're in the library, then just go to References, go over to Insert Table. It'll give you this option, press OK, and it says no figures found because I haven't added my caption. So to make this work, what you're going to have to do is, you know, go wherever you're having your first chart or information, right? Something in like the problem would make sense to maybe have a graphic. So to insert your graphics, on desktop, you go Insert. Here, you don't have as many options, right? So you have the option to insert specific pictures. So you can, if you like have the screenshot of a graph or something, do it that way. And in drawing is how you can get a few more options, like a text box, a picture, and you can draw some stuff in tables. But notice there is not the option to directly embed a table, right? And so here though, on our insert on the desktop, we have, you know, all of these options, which is way better. So again, try to go to the library and just do some of this, like get all of your main writing done on the online version and then be like, cool, on Saturday, I'm just going to spend a few hours in the library, you know, doing these specific things to finish my report. So anyway, in here, go to chart. You have the option, right? All these different chart types. Press OK. It's going to follow my color palette from my design tab that I chose. You can change all the data and everything directly in Word from here. And then once you have your chart selected, go over to the References tab. References is kind of your home page for great stuff. Insert caption. Write your data story, which includes the context I need, the insight you want me to pay attention to, and any kind of resolution or so what. Or so what. So if this we imagine was like, I don't know, the amount of emissions coming from different energy sources, maybe write the data story here and be like, all right, sorry, my computer got mad for a second. I had to delete some storage on that. So what he's saying, if this maybe is a graph showing the different emissions, coming from different power, right? The context might be power, emits a lot of greenhouse gas, right? The insight is that, but coal or whatever is the worst. Resolution, right? UCCS should, or electric, coal-powered electric is the worst. Resolution, UCCS should get off the electric grid for our buildings, right? Context, big insight you want me to pay attention to, so what from it? So once we have this caption written, so again, it's just references, insert caption, then we can go back to our list of figures and tell it to update field. And now it knows, hey, here's my figure 1. Right, then if we go down later, and maybe we insert some sort of a table, I don't know. Tables are great, right? Go insert. We can do, this little table of information. You fill in your data. Again, click on it. Go references, insert caption. This time, change the label to be a table, because it's a table. Same, label and little insight. And now it knows that it's a table, it goes above. And if we go back up to our list of figures, again, update the field, entire table. Ooh. Oh, sorry, because it was a insert table. This time, yeah, here we go. Okay, perfect. And now we have our list of figures. Here's our figures, here's our tables. Right, and so basically you just have to kind of tell it, are you wanting to do your figures or do you want it to do your tables? And then as you add, right, more figures, which actually it doesn't know, so it doesn't know if it's a figure or not, it matters that you labeled it, right? So even if I don't put something here, if I just do caption, it's gonna think that there is, a figure there, right? I go over here and just do a caption, but obviously you want to do it on your actual graphs. And if I go back up, you just right click, update field, update, right? And it will pull whatever data you have provided. Update table. Cool. So make sure, right, as you're finishing, right, polishing, go in and update, your tables, give yourself those captions, and then add your list of figures. You need to do it on the desktop. It just doesn't have the power that I found of I don't think it has the power to do it in the online world. All right. The last key thing that you absolutely have to do, right, is your references. So if you are online, if we go to references, notice, right, you don't have this whole citations and bibliography section. Again, it's just something that is missing in the online environment, unfortunately. Best way to get around that, well, one, you can always just do a manual table, so use RefWorks to organize it for you, or, write out your citations as you're actually citing. So if I was doing it manually, instead of having all this, I would say, okay, 1, as I cite, right, H black boo. And then I'd say 2, as I actually used, right, my TW test web. And 3, right? And then in the document itself, right, as I'm citing them, I'd have to be like 1, right, 2, and 3. And so you just have to do it manually, which is fine. People, gosh, I was talking to my father-in-law who, he's a animal researcher, PhD, but anyway, he was saying how he had to go get punch cards from the library and write his reports on a typewriter when he was in college. So people have been doing it manually for a long time. It's doable. It's just a little bit annoying, but absolutely that's how you would do it since you don't have access to this. Otherwise, I would recommend, again, if you can get the desktop version, that's going to be just the most time saving for you. And so what you might do, honestly, is, again, if you write your whole report sort of at home in your cloud version, but kind of, again, keep a little mock, like go ahead and do this. And like, okay, I know this is where I'm citing, this is where I'm citing. Kind of just have that mental list for yourself. Maybe instead of doing the whole thing, you just give yourself enough of a note. You know, this was Blackburn, this was test web, you know, this was blah, 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 blah. What then you could do is if you leave these notes for yourself, okay, is what I would do if I was in your shoes. Then I would, again, in my couple of hours, I plan to go to the library to use these tools on the desktop version. I would go back and see my notes, right? And what I would do is say, okay, let me go back through my report, find right where I left these. Maybe you highlight them for yourself to make it easier to find. So again, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm at home and I, don't have access. Let me just go ahead and highlight this every time I, use a source. Maybe this is 2 and 3, right? And then I used 4 here. IEEE goes in just numerical order. So it's just whatever order that you cite them in. Then maybe I use 1 again down here, right? So I would highlight all of these. I'd go to the library where I have my actual references tab. First thing I would do, manage sources and make sure that all of my sources, right, are here, that I actually have them all uploaded, right? And so, copy, these are all ones that I've existing, kind of put in or looked at for that example paper. Or, in the library, first thing I do is like convert my research log, all that info, right, into here. And that's, kind of how I would go about it. Yeah, would be really good. Also, note, maybe I'll make one last little tiny video, but just note there is an interview option, right, where you can just put your, interview name, interview person. The title, I mean, it's like, I guess if your interview title, I would just, say, conversation about solar power. Right? When did you do the interview? Cool. Press OK. And then, it shows up and it actually, and just note, like, it's really it's not that different than citing anything else, right? You have your name, just mention, it's their interviewee, kind of a title, say it's an interview, right? And the date. And so that's how you will cite your actual interview. Okay, so once I have all of my things in my citation manager, then what I would do, go to all the little things that you highlighted where you're going to have a source, and then just replace them. So okay, I left a note for myself, source number 1, it was supposed to be, Blackburn. And so I would delete this with the IEEE format on, insert citation, and right, I knew it was Blackburn. And then, okay, this was 2 and 3. You have your mental note, who were 2 and 3, insert citation, test web, and, whatever, your interview. Right? Replace this one as well with, your other source. And then you're like, oh, wait, interview 1 again. And just go through and basically replace your placeholders. And notice, right, it knows, hey, this is 1, 1, 1. Love that. So then, once you go through your whole report and, replace with your little insert citations up here, when you go to your reference list, it knows what order you used these sources in. Right? It does the whole thing for you, and then you don't have to worry about the manual. All right? So one more time, if you can only use the cloud version, what I recommend that you do is get your report written, get all those pieces done that you need. As you're writing, put placeholders for the different citation areas, highlight them, so that way you can come to campus, do your captions, do your list of figures, and then put in your citations using the references tab and the citation tool get your reference list created and have all of the automated power. And it'll probably take you just like a couple hours if you really prep and have everything ready to go and notes for yourself. Okay, so those are all the baseline kind of tools really that you can use and that you would do for finishing this report. Why the heck? I don't know. I just created a new page. That's fine. Sometimes Word does weird things, especially when you have two open. The other thing you can do is this design tab. Notice there's no design tab in the online environment. And so this is where you can, again, make it all custom, change your colors, change your fonts, and change what the different styles look like. So I recommend, I like doing this at the beginning because it does change the layout a little bit, but this is also something you could apply at the end when you're in the library if you only have the 365 version. So most of your work can be done at home on the online version. Plan a couple of hours, go to the library, go to the computer lab, knock out those last pieces. Okay. And that's all you have to do. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of an advanced setting for those who kind of want it or need it. And that is going to be how to change how it reports out your page numbers and then how to make a landscape page, which can be a little bit helpful, okay? And so basically what we're going to do is accomplish that with sections. This is something you also cannot do in the online environment. There is not the option to create the same types of sections, unfortunately. So what we're going to do, anytime you need Word to basically treat something as unique or different, you have to create a section for it. Right, so first what we're going to do is instead of saying, okay, this is going to start on page 3, for example, you just want it to have that nice little front matter for you instead, and have this actually be page 1, right? And then all these other pages are just kind of pre-pages, basically. What we're going to do is basically define this as a section and tell it when to break the section. And then we will define this as a new section. So what we just need to do is kind of cursor over here, do layout, go to your layout tab. This is one of those things that's often I actually have to look up again when I actually need it because I don't use it tons, but it just gives it that really, really formal line. So you go to a break, and you just wanted it to basically do a continuous section. If you do next page, it will drop it down to the next page. So you can just do a continuous section break here. And then when you go into your design, insert page numbers, right? You can put it at the top, bottom. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Just whatever you like, whatever you feel like, whatever fits your vibe. I like to keep it pretty plain, right? And so already you can see there's page numbers here, but there's not page numbers here. And that's because it's only applying it to this first section and not this section. And so one of the options, and this is where it gets really weird and tricky sometimes, is it wants to link to the previous, but you don't want it to do that basically. And so yes, right? We don't want it to be linked from that previous section. So then if we go into our page number options, we can format it differently. Right? In this case, right, we might do the little I's, start at I, cool. And now we have, technically our abstract is on page I and not page 1, right? So we can kind of close that. Cool. Okay, so then we have to look at this section, right? And we can see there's like our, oh, where's our section break at? Do. Go to our layout. We want our section break. Make sure that you see the section break. I see that by clicking on this P right here. That's what helps me see and shows me the information. So now that we know we have like a section break, and you can like, you know, kind of delete up. Oh, I see where it went. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Again, this is why I didn't directly teach you, because Word kind of can be a little bit of a monster with it sometimes. So what I'm going to do is actually go to Design. Again, just follow along with me. Hang in there, right? So go to your layout. Go ahead and do a next page break. So that way we get a brand new page with that. And go ahead and put like your heading 1 back on there. Okay. Cool. Okay. So then from here is where we can go back to our our insert. We want to do a new page number, right? Bottom of the page. Here. And notice how it's starting at 0 versus 2, right? So it's starting at 0 because we told it this is a brand new section. But we don't want it to necessarily link to the previous. And we don't want a different first page. And then when we tell it to format 1, 2, and 3, and we can tell it to start at page 1, right? Now we have page 1, page 2, page 3. And then this is still page 2 because it knows it's a different section. And so if we go back over here, format, and let's tell this one to be little Roman numerals. And we have page 1. All right? Again, listen, this is a more advanced thing. If you do this, you know, definitely I'll go into those extra like polish way to really play and push yourselves, but it's not part of the requirements because it's just one of those weird tiny like details. And if you were submitting to somewhere that was super particular about it, I would expect you to probably just look up how to do it. But that is ultimately what you need to do. You need to create a new section. So it's saying section 1 has page numbers that look like an I. Section 2 has page numbers that start at 1. And then when you update your table of contents, page numbers, right, it changes it. So now the introduction is actually starting on page 1, right? When we update our list of figures, again, see, it updates it so it's all correct. Cool. So that's one of those little advanced things. That's how you get it to look a little bit more fancy or whatever. And in this case, this is where if I wanted to do a heading here, then it would kind of make sense because at least the table of contents, right, is showing and saying, oh, the abstract is technically not in the report, right? It's in the I front matter pages versus where everything else starts. So one more time, I mean, honestly, just rewatch the video and literally follow along with all my steps. But basically what you need to do is go into the layout, do a section break. You can go to the next page to make sure your first page, you know, just starts. And then when you have your sections defined is when you go into your insert page numbers for section 1, tell it what format you want, insert page numbers for section 2, tell it to not link to the continuous, and then tell it to start at page 1. So we watch that video and you can kind of see how that works. The last thing is how to, again, building on the idea of sections, how to get your pages to go in like a landscape kind of option. So again, if we wanted, I don't know, one of these to be landscape, let's just like insert actually a brand new page here. So you have a big table that you want it to look actually in a landscape view. Again, you'll go into your layout tab, break, do a next page break, and put a little placeholder, enter, do a next page break. We'll have to like change our page numbers. We'll do that in a second. Cool. And so now, boop, boop, boop. Make sure that's there. Perfect. You would have some, do this orientation under layout. Go on the page that you want. Tell it orientation, landscape. And now, because again, we said this section has specific attributes, this section has specific attributes, this section has specific attributes. So now we have just this one section that has the landscape mode, and that's how you would do it. Now notice it did break our page numbers, and so then we just have to go back, click on this, and ooh, I want it to actually be linked. Yes. Page number. Format. And so we'll continue from previous section. All you need to do is, again, since it like wants to be a new section, basically, you just tell it to continue from previous, and now we go 2, 3, and then here you have to do the same. Just go page numbers, format page numbers, continue from previous, 4 and 5. Okay. And then if we scroll back up here, because sometimes it breaks it, nope, these are still good. And so none of that you can do really in the online version. You have to do it in desktop. It's intimidating. So if you were really intimidated by that one, again, just watch all those steps back, like slowly follow along with me. But if you are getting too overwhelmed and intimidated, just know it's like, that's stuff that like, final kind of finishing, polishing details, not necessarily the skill that you have to do in your like intro-level class. That's just how you would do it. And if you do, try that and get it and it's successful, like definitely I will be so happy and be like, yay, great job. But it's not like a requirement, but it is a key kind of, I don't know, or something you can do in Word to give it that extra polish. And so those are kind of the advanced things. Basically what you just want to remember is every section that you create using these section breaks is how you designate new formatting in that area. And that's all you have to do. All right, so those are the key tools that you really need in a nice video tutorial that you can follow along with and walk through. Thanks, associates.